Hey there, friend! You're watching the Movavi channel, and here is me, Daria. Today we're going to talk about movies of the horror genre. That is, how they look, how they've changed over the years, what common tricks they use, and how to shoot your own scary movie. It's gonna be fun. Are you a thrill seeker? American roller coasters, horrors before bedtime, survival horror quests, and so on? Okay, let me confess now. Whenever I watch horror movies at the cinema, I have to look away or cover my mouth with my hands to stop myself from accidentally screaming with fright. But damn it! I keep on watching anyway. My colleagues probably don't share this enthusiasm and will giggle at this. Anyway, I decided it would be me who would scare them to death. And here is the video each of them received one day in the office. Spooky, right? Sorry if I scared you by mistake. At the end of the video, I'll explain how we shot and edited it. But first, let's talk a bit about the history of the horror genre. The first horror movie in the world came out in 1896 and was called The Haunted Castle. It has been called horror genre and even fantasy. Georges Méliès, a Frenchman, was the director of this feature film. Let's take a look at one short clip. The movie is of course black and white. However, there is background music and special effects in the form of instant appearance and disappearance of objects in the frame.
All these things help to give the impression of magical transformations. For instance, a bat turned into Mephistopheles. And it's a magical cauldron that the phantoms, skeletons and witches emerge from. From a classical perspective, Frankenstein is considered to have been the first horror movie. It was shot in 1931 and was based on the novel of the same name by Mary Shelley. In the movie version, the beast is nothing but a living creature assembled from parts of dead bodies, while his skull contains the mind of a criminal. The monster in the movie commits crimes unconsciously and has a low intellect.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Around the same time, the famous The Phantom of the Opera came out. As you can see, these movies already include titles and more atmospheric music designed to intensify viewers' fears. And there are actors' voices too. Other movies followed, like Dracula and The Mummy.
I am Dracula.
The Mummy. Is it dead or alive? Human or inhuman? You'll know. You'll see. You'll feel the awful, creeping, crawling terror that...
By the way, the movie The Mummy starred an actor by the name of Boris Karloff, who also portrayed the monster in Frankenstein. But it was only in the 50s and 60s that the horror genre became more widely popular. I guess you've heard of Alfred Hitchcock before. This well-known director was probably the first one to show violent scenes on the big screen. Back then, he had no competitors in terms of sophistication. Above all, he was the first one to be associated with the concept of suspense.
Suspense is a feeling of anxiety, nervousness, and anticipation. By employing this trick in cinematography, directors are able to keep viewers on the edge of their seats, filled with tension and uncertainty over an extended period. Hitchcock was a master of suspense, forcing his viewers wait in anticipation of something terrible they knew was about to happen on the screen. A great example is the scene from his film Sabotage, 1936, where a boy in public transport carries a bomb that is meant to explode at a certain time. Later, many Hollywood filmmakers would adopt this approach.
Horror movies of 70s and 80s are close to what we're used to seeing nowadays. At the same time, it was getting clear that the main audience for these movies is young people and teenagers, so they became the main characters.
Nobody's gonna help us. We've got to get out of this ourselves.
Well, if you've got any bright ideas, girl, just sing right out.
In the 90s, the film Scream was a real breakthrough. This film is part of slasher subcategory.
Slasher is a subgenre of horror films in which there is usually a psychopathic killer, often hiding his face behind a mask as he kills his many victims. Did you know that the working title of Scream was Scary Movie? It was never used, but a series of remakes parodies for this film were named in this way. Speaking of remakes,
You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't with the original.
they became a key trend in the 2000s in the horror film genre. The same thing happened with sequels. This isn't surprising because the technology is constantly progressing and storylines are not infinite.
Now, what about the 2010s? Along with the development of the internet and the growing popularity of social networks, horror films have added cyber harassment and the hidden dangers of new technologies to their repertoire. As you noticed, I have watched many horror films in preparing for these references. I picked out 8 main techniques that directors use to frighten us, the audience. Both you and I can use these techniques to create scary videos. But first things first.
Long pans. Long pans and deliberately lingering scenes are complemented by the camera following the main character, usually at some distance. Close-ups. Did you notice these close-ups of a little boy and twins alive and then not? A strong emphasis is placed on the hero's evident emotional state. Usually this emotion is different degrees of fear, from mild panic to pure horror, thus maximizing the tension. Close-ups are often used to shift attention from the frightening creation to the hero, and then again transfer the camera to the villain, who has already magically disappeared. Viewers are frightened not so much by the fact that something scary is shown to them, but rather when they associate themselves with the character and begin to feel the horror that the character experiences when meeting the villain. Contrast of light and shadows. The action of most scenes in horror movies unfolds in semi-darkness. The faces of the heroes and key details are highlighted with a bright light, a flashlight, the light from a phone, a ray of light coming through a small gap. There is usually only one source of light, which creates overexposure and hard shadows. This is standard operating procedure in horror films. The understatement. Been around for a long time but still effective. To cause horror and thrill in viewers, it is not necessary to show them a dismemberment or a monster in all its gory details. Our brain is arranged in such a way that it needs only a hint, and it will complete the picture and frighten itself more than any master of visual effects can. In this classic example, the victim doesn't see the villain, but the viewer already sees a creeping shadow. The rhythm. Every horror movie has a scene where evil is encountered. In this case, what happens before and after the appearance of the villain is almost more important than the actual meeting. The before moment is usually long and detailed. The tension is building. Then a short pause. The characters stop, the music suddenly breaks, a sharp explosion, a leap, a monster or a villain screams in silence. And then the action begins to unfold very quickly, and the shock effect increases exponentially. Non-professional shooting style, found footage. These can be frames from a surveillance camera or an amateur camera or a phone, what one of the participants of the terrible events managed to shoot. Sound effects. Intense music or sudden changes in sound, of course, will impact the audience. Also, due to the fact that viewers do not see everything that happens, sometimes sharp and eerie sounds can force viewers to complete a terrible picture on their own. Sometimes a creaking door, a light puff of wind, shuffling steps, or noise from a radio is enough. Recognizable images. Finally, there are the frightening looks created with graphics, visual effects, or masterfully applied makeup. Many of them, like scary clowns, innocent girls in strange circumstances, or a man in a hockey mask, have become recognizable and instantly give people the creeps.
Let's see how I managed to film and edit my own scary movie using some typical tricks from horror movies. For this video, we used a GoPro camera, a fastening, and this step ladder. Instead of a GoPro camera, you might as well use an ordinary phone. And my recommendation would be to use this fisheye lens, it will look cool. Well, it's important how to build a frame because you need to make sure that everyone is in the shot. Also, with the help of all these devices, you can create the so-called video surveillance effect. Absolute evil in my horror scene is played by Sasha, our colleague. Recognizable image, isn't it? Well, we did the makeup ourselves. So the camera is installed, the actors are in place, and the script is ready. Seems like everything is fine, except that we don't have a budget for special effects. So the magic of a scary movie will be added at the editing stage. Well, we will just shoot the whole thing at a single pass, and then we will cut out all the extra fragments. For example, I want to use contrast light. Like suddenly it became very dark, then Sasha appeared in the frame, highlighted with a bright light. I'll just ask the assistant to turn off the lights, then Sasha will appear, and then the assistant will turn on the lamp again. Any extra moves, mistakes, and pauses will be deleted over the editing stage.
Now the editing. I'll use Video Editor Plus from Movavi. Switching to the program's advanced mode, I load all the elements of my horror movie. Now I will cut out all the failed moments that are more comic than horrifying. Well, now it's better. As I said before, you can add more tension with so-called found footage. There is a camera video clip included in the program that would work for this situation. I simply drag it to the timeline. It can be superimposed on the video as an additional layer. Also, this timer title helps to complete the CCTV look I'm trying to achieve. To create the effect of a damaged film, you can apply several filters. For example, grayscale, VHS, camera shake, or noise. Let me tell you exactly how I did it for my horror movie. I applied the grayscale filter to all the clips. Also, some of them have the camera shake and motion blur effects. The key word is some. In my case, only the very scenes when the ghost attacks. I used the scissors tool to cut the scenes, so the additional effects would be applied only to them. I highly recommend you use the filters, but not to go crazy. Do you remember the reference to understatement? I specifically leave it only in the key moments, as if the film was spoiled, so that the viewer mentally completes a single picture of what is happening. Believe me, it'll be more effective. I can use hard cuts, and then connect them with video cassette effects. Here is what I do. I cut a small, shorter than a second piece of clips using the same scissors tool. Next, I add the VHS and low noise filters to the clip. Now, instead of a hard cut, I have this kind of transition between scenes clips. Works great for the found footage look. At some points, I also edit white noise footage. The cool thing is I didn't have to search the web for footage like this. It's already there, in the Movavi Video Editor built-in library. Now the sound. I don't need extraneous sounds. I'd rather decide for myself when the door creaks and when the music should reach a crescendo. This means we need to delete the existing audio track. Right-click and select Detach Audio. Now the video and audio are separate. Click on the audio track and select Delete. So, now let's look at the program's built-in collection of music and sounds. From the most appropriate sounds here, let's go for heartbeat and white noise. I drag them to the timeline and trim a little bit. Let's not forget about the background music. I can hardly recall a modern horror movie without dark ambient. This track fits just right. I found it on the YouTube Media Library. It's important to lower the sound to about 30%, so that the background music doesn't spoil the sound effects I have applied earlier. Also, it is worth including a few close-ups, as was shown in the scene from the movie The Shining. If you didn't decide up front what type of shot you want to use in the final video, it's not a problem. Since we will use a spoiled record, the loss of quality is not bad news for us, which means that we can crop the picture in order to get a close-up. Let's define the part where you want to add a close-up. Click on Tools, Video Properties, Rotate and Crop. Moving the dots in the preview window, you can choose the frame size and determine which part of the frame to keep. Click Apply. Well, that's it. Click Save and select the desired video format. That's what we've got.
Now that we know all these tricks, it's going to be hard to scare us. Well, did you like the video? If you did, click the like button. And after you check if there are monsters under your bed, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Or I'll come for you.
Well, if you're already subscribed, you can sleep peacefully. Just don't forget to subscribe to our update notifications by clicking the bell. By the way, leave us the names of horror movies you'd recommend in the comments. I'll be grateful. While I'm choosing a horror movie for next Friday night, I recommend you watch one of our latest videos. By the way, it's not scary at all. Bye!